crossover. Huntsmen and Heroes, Part 2. What to watch, everybody? It's your boy Icon with another review for you. And when I watched this is actually cool because it didn't come on Max. It's not on Max yet. I ended up watching it. I ended up renting it on Amazon Prime. So shame on you, Max. So, but when I watched it, they started the whole film off with Ruby, the voice of Ruby Rose, and I was just like, Ruby Rose, because the thing is, like, because she was narrating the beginning, telling everybody who they were, what happened, who the Huntsman people are, and my whole thing was, when I watched part one, I didn't know who these people were. I didn't know what a Ruby was. I didn't know what a Team Ruby was. I was just like, Ruby Rose. I was like, is this person a singer, like a content creator, or is she Batwoman? I was like, who is this Ruby Rose person? And I'm just like, where was all this explanation in part one giving us the rundown? So now this time they actually finally explained who all these people were. They gave us the rundown of what happened in part one, and now we can proceed over to part two. And I did like part one, and I actually did, when I was done, when I watched part one, I actually did go on YouTube and I did start watching some Ruby Rose, episodes and some Ruby Rose content. So like the Team Ruby thing, and actually I did enjoy it. And then like I watched as much as I could until they eventually cut me off, but it was actually very good. So now I'm more familiar with who these people are, and now let's get into a little bit of Justice League action. So when we last left the team, I said like they were trapped in like Ruby Land, and they ended up getting themselves back home. When the Justice League returns, they find out that the Grimm that they were fighting over in Ruby Land, the Grimm has now made their way into their world. Like they've made their way into like Metropolis, Gotham, Central City, etc., etc. So now they're trying to figure out what to do. So the whole team splits up. Black Canary joins she joins the group now, and then she's like, "Where have you guys been? We have problems." So like everybody splits up, and they go to try to stop all these Grimm from taking over the planet. And the interesting thing about that was since the world was being like taken over, it forced the villains of the DC world to actually team up with the heroes. Killer Croc was saving children, like the Mirror Master, Weather Wizard, they were helping out. A lot of the villains were helping out. They said like the Riddler and Catwoman were helping out. Everybody was helping out except for the Joker and for Harley. Because while everybody was like watching the Grimm thing, Joker and Harley were sitting on a rooftop somewhere sipping Mai Tais, watching the world burn, which was crazy. But they're going out. Everybody's trying to stop these Grimm. But then the Grimm ended up, they targeted Batman. They focused on Batman. They poisoned Batman and took him out. And the reason behind them taking him out, because Kilgore had said to the person he was working with, he said that, we got to take out Batman because he's like the world's greatest detective, and we can't have Batman figuring out what the hell our plan is. So they poisoned Batman and took him out. So Batman's back at the Hall of Justice. They're trying to figure out how to get the poison out of his system. They don't know what to do. And then Superman tells the Flash, and he tells Jessica Cruz, Green Lantern, you need to hurry up and find Ruby and them so they can help us take down these Grimm. Now the Justice League, like they're not kids anymore, like they're grown adults. Jessica Cruz looked very adult. Like I wasn't expecting that from Jessica Cruz. So anyway, so they ended up finding Ruby Land. And then when they find Ruby Land, they ended up communicating with them through I guess like these iPads. Before they found them, because for the Justice League, it's only been 3 days since they saw the Ruby team. But for the Ruby team, it's actually been 3 weeks because time works differently in like different dimensions. And over that course of time, Ruby has basically been very gung-ho about stopping the Grimm. And her sister even said, she was just like, she said ever since we had that skirmish with the Justice League, she said that you're not careful anymore, you're not cautious, you just jump into action, you go head first, like you're very wild, you're very crazy. She's like, I need you to pull it back a little bit, because again, like she has this thing where it's almost like somebody removed her fear and now she has no fear. So she takes that attitude, she ends up seeing Superman and Clark and everybody, and then they bring them in to the DC universe, and now the Ruby characters are in the DC universe, looking way more adult than we're used to them looking, because in Ruby Land, they have like the short skirts and the little cute fairy boots and the stockings. Now they got on the leotards and like the superhero tights and everything. And it was a good look for them. I was just like, if they wanted to do a Ruby Rose series where they're a little older, I said this would actually work perfectly. Like the characters that had like the cat ears and everything, they didn't have like their ears and everything, but the Ruby characters also, they thought they didn't have their power. Because the powers did work differently, especially with the Justice League. When the Justice League was in Ruby Land, their powers worked differently. But they did determine that, yes, they do have their power. They just had to tap into it like a little bit more. So Ruby was able to disappear and fly all over the place and do her stuff, and she was going crazy. Everybody was going crazy, and they were doing the damn thing. Batman was dying on the couch, and then like one of the girl, the ice girl, she was trying to figure out how to like how to save Batman. So this turned into like it was very good action, like because this had way more action I think than the part one. Like it was just like nonstop, like them taking down Grimm and like killing people and going crazy. Cyborg was trying to come up with a way to take him down. One thing that they did find out like later on was that Kilgore himself was trying to send a message to the Justice League telling them to stop the person who he had teamed up with. And then we later find out that the person that he teamed up with was a person named Watts, who's actually a villain for the RWBY team. Watts and Kilgore teamed up in the digital world, so this way, like, he can, I guess, create like a new body for himself. And then once they figured that out, then it was up to Cyborg to try to come up with a way, to stop them. While this is all going on, like everybody's having like their personal relationships where like Flash, like he's going crazy because Kilgore got in his head and he was just like, I'm a liability to the team. Batman's dying on the couch. Like I said, Ruby's doing the whole thing with her sister. She's having a talk with Clark. Vixen was there looking, looking good, doing the damn thing. Like I said, everybody was there. They even got to a point where like they even took a break. They're just like, okay, we've done all we could do for today. Let's take a break and like come back in the morning. And then Ruby was like, no, we have to keep fighting. And everybody was like, girl, if you don't sit your ass down. So like I said, but she ended up telling her sister that the whole reason why she was just like, life is too short and she has to press forward and she can't stop. And what good is, having a life if you can't protect it? And she's like, I need you to trust me. And then her sister decided to trust her. So they come up with an idea so they can trap Kilgore and they can stop Watts, once and for all. So they meet him down by Times Square, at high noon. And then when they get there, like Watts is there, Kilgore is there. And then when they were about to, engage with the Justice League and get into a fight, it turns out that the plan was all the villains that they could get their hands on, like all the rogues showed up, the rogues from the Flash's gallery. They even made a joke about that too, because there was a joke about they were saying the names of like the Flash villains, and then the RWBY characters was like Weather Wizard, like Mirror Master, who the hell are these people? And then she was just like, yeah, she's like, you kind of ignore, that's when Jessica Cruz said, you kind of ignore the Flash rogue gallery roster. Like their names aren't that very, aren't very interesting. And then when some of the RWBY characters went to Gotham to try to stop some of the Grimm in Gotham City, every time one of them got to Gotham, they were like, oh, this is where Batman lives. They're like, huh, now this makes sense. Like she's like, I completely understand Batman way more now. So I said, so Cyborg comes up with the thing. They ended up using the Mirror Master and they ended up using the Weather Wizard to trap Kilgore and Watts into the mirror world. So with all of them trapped into the mirror world, the Justice League and Team RWBY, they go into the mirror world with them. And now that they're into the mirror world, the RWBY characters look how they used to look, but everybody has their powers. The Justice League has their power. The RWBY characters have their power. They fight, they're fighting in the mirror world. There was a point where Kilgore had Watts, whatever, he had taken over Wonder Woman. He took over Jessica Cruz. He was like putting his body like through different people, but then they eventually was able to stop him because Cyborg had come to deduce that the powers that the Grimm were created from, like poison, venom, electricity, whatever the hell power is the Green Lantern ring, like he said that if he could tap into all of them at the same time, he could stop them, and using the dust to make sure he doesn't kill himself. So he does that. He uses the he uses the power, and then he was able to trap both Kilgore and Watts into the digital world and trap them in a prison where they can't get out. So the world is safe. So everybody's safe. Everything goes back to normal. Batman and like I forgot the white chick, the one that looked like ice. The two of them shared a dry interaction with each other, which was funny because I was like, everybody fucks with Batman. And I said, then after that, they were just like, oh, the world is saved. And like nothing really happened as far as like consequences for the RWBY characters. They're just like, hey, we came, we helped you out. Now we're going back home to finish doing what we were doing. The Justice League went to go stop Lex Luthor. Like both teams said goodbye. And then, the Team RWBY went home, and then the Justice League went off into the sunset. That's how it ended. And thank you for tuning in. So this was very good. Like I said, I mean, from a dialogue standpoint, there was a lot of action in this. I mean, from a review standpoint, it wasn't really heavy on the storyline. You know what I'm saying? Like the story was pretty simple to follow. It was just very action based, which I like. Because we did get a lot of conversation in the first one. So the fact that this one was like, like a lot of action, I very enjoyed it. I enjoyed both of them. Like I said, I'm looking forward to checking out some more, of Team RWBY and like the whole RWBY show. Maybe I can see some more of her seasons, some more of her episodes, and whoever's doing the artistry for the Justice League, like, I mean, if we can get a series based on this, that'd be really cool, because I like how the characters were drawn or whatever. Like, I like the dynamics. So hey, like, give us something like that. So I'll definitely review it as well. But kudos. As far as the RWBY crossover, both parts 1 and part 2, Team RWBY and Team Justice League, I say the yay. So definitely check it out. I mean, it's on your all your social media app platforms like Amazon Prime. It's available on YouTube TV, and I'm pretty sure at some point it's going to be available on Max when Max gives it to everybody on Max as well. That's it. So check out my other videos because I have the entire season, my season reviews for Echo up on my YouTube channel. And I guess the next thing we're probably going to review from a DC standpoint will be Crisis on Infinite Earths Part 1. We got our hands on the RWBY crossover Part 2, so now next it's time to get on that Crisis on Infinite Earth, and we can review that too. So that was it, guys. So take care. Until next time, look out for Team RWBY and the Justice League because they might come together to save the world from the digital blade. And we're out this